All right. So my freshman year of college, I worked at a kiosk in the mall. It was called Sock It To Me. And on this particular Tuesday, I had a final that I had to take before work. And I wasn't scheduled to work until like 3 p.m. So I had plenty of time to take my final and stuff. But I got done early, I got home, and I knew that the person working before me that day, he likes to be relieved early. Like if I show up early, he has no problem with going home. So I was in a good mood for finally finishing my final and stuff, so I decided to go and show up to work early. So I got there about an hour before my shift started, and around 2 o'clock. And the guy he's like, "Oh, thank you so much." He packed up his stuff and he left. But that particular day, my supervisor Melissa was there, and Melissa and I, we got along we get along really well. Like, whenever she came to do like inventory or anything, she would always like stay for a long time, like at least half an hour, to just like sit and chat with me. And like we got along pretty well. So, on that particular day, on Tuesday, she was there. She was there to help teach the guy how to work the cash register because he was having trouble with it. So she was there. But then I showed up and the guy left, and she had stayed to like chat with me because it was a Tuesday afternoon, the mall was empty. And so like she was just like, whatever. So she was doing inventory and chatting with me, and she was there for almost an hour. She was there for like until like 3 o'clock, and then finally she's like, okay, like I have to go. I actually have to like get work done or whatever. So she starts packing up her stuff, and she gets a phone call. So she stops packing and she answers her phone, and at that moment 2 or 3 gunshots go off in the mall. And I've never heard gunfire in real life, so to me, they just sounded like balloons, but it was like amplified like 100 times. Like it was really loud, but it just sounded like balloons. And working at a mall, you kind of ignore loud noises after a while and you zone them out, especially when you're like talking to customers and stuff. And so I didn't even hear it or didn't pay attention to it. And it was only like 2 or 3 shots, so I kind of ignored it. But my boss, Melissa, she had been in the military for like 6 or 8 years, so kind of she subconsciously knew that it was gunfire. But we were in Clackamas town center, and for those of you guys who don't know, Clackamas is, I don't know if it's part of Portland or if it's like a town outside of Portland, but it's a tiny town that's like a rich community. People are known, like the women there are known as like the Clackamas moms, and they're like the kind of moms that they're like housewives, and they're always like at the mall or getting their hair done or whatever, and their husbands like support them. And it's just like one of those communities. So like we were at the Clackamas Town Center Mall, and Melissa, when she heard the gunfire, she didn't really put it like two to two together. She was just like this isn't happening at the mall. It has to be something else, because it just didn't make sense for gunfire to be going off in like Clackamas. So I don't know if she like blew it off, but like her mind, all of this, the entire story I'm about to tell you, all happened within like a minute. It was probably less than that, but honestly it was within like a minute. So it was only a couple seconds when her mind was just like, this isn't happening, this isn't real. So the first couple gunshots went off, and then there was like a brief pause, and apparently, I don't remember this, or I didn't hear it or whatever, but apparently he like started yelling, the shooter, he started yelling like, my name is Jacob Roberts and I'm here to kill you, or something like that. But that's something I didn't hear, or I don't remember. And then all of a sudden, gunfire just broke out, and he just started shooting like 30 or 40 rounds, and it was just like pow, 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 pow. And it was just like gunfire all in a row for like 10 or 15 seconds. And at that point, obviously I started to notice it, and it got really, really loud. But at first it was just like the first like 2 or 3 shots, it was just really loud, and it just like, it caught my attention, but it just like hurt my ears. It didn't do anything else. But the more he started shooting, the more it like started vibrating like my entire chest. And like toward the end of his like first shootout, it was like vibrating like my whole body. It was like every shot was just like pow, pow, and it was just like hitting me in the chest. It was like so loud. But he like, our mall, it's like a giant atrium and dome, so everything is echoed and everything is amplified, so that's probably why it was so loud. But he entered through a Macy's, and in the middle of the mall there's like a dome, and there's like Macy's, and on the other side of the mall is the food court. But in the middle, it's not like a big like open platform. There's like a hole in the middle of the ground where you can look from the second story onto the first one. And so he came in through Macy's, and he was shooting toward the food court at all the people there, because that was like the busiest part of the mall, because that's always the busiest part of the mall. So he was shooting at the food court, but and I don't know anything about weapons, so all the details I'm telling you guys are things that like the police have told me, or Melissa has told me, or things like that. But apparently his weapon was silenced, or it was influenced somehow where the range was cut off, and so his bullets from Macy's didn't reach all the way into the food court. They only reached like 5 or 10 feet into the like actual floor part. So he realized after shooting like 30 or 40 times that he wasn't reaching anybody. He wasn't like, there was people there, but like the bullets weren't going far enough to like hit anybody. So he decided to start walking like around the dome, probably toward the food court, but in our direction. So at this point, it's probably been like 10 or 15 seconds. I'm like starting to realize that something is happening, because you hear screaming, you hear tables falling, you hear glass breaking, you hear all this stuff, all this kind of stuff. So I'm starting to like kind of like understand that something's going on. But then I'm still not like, for some reason I didn't make the decision to like look in the direction of the noise. Like it just never even crossed my brain in that like 10 or 15 seconds. But then all of a sudden my boss, Melissa, who's standing right next to me, and mind you, Melissa is like a 5'6", extremely skinny, like Portland girl. She wears like pigtails, like high socks, like colorful clothing. Like she's very like hippie-like. And so she's very like petite and small and sweet. And she's standing right next to me, and all of a sudden she like looks at me like with like such a terrifying, like it scared the shit out of me, but she like looks at me and she's like, "Get the fuck on the ground." And she like screamed at me with like such like it like she was so serious and so scared, and like I saw the look in her eye that she was just like she got into this like killer zone. Like her eyes literally like looked like dead. Like she looked like she was like on a mission to do something, and it like scared the shit out of me. It like terrified me. And so naturally I just look in the direction of where her eyes are facing, and I see Jacob with all black and a white hockey mask and like a hoodie on, and he's like walking in our direction. He's carrying this like automatic rifle, and he's heading in our direction. And I like finally like kind of like start to realize what's happening. And Steven, one of the people who died that day, he was running towards us away from Jacob, but Jacob was only like 2 or 3 feet behind him. And Jacob like brings up, he like brings up his gun, and he points it right at the back of his head and shoots him. And I'm seeing all of this because I've now turned toward Jacob, and so I'm seeing all of this. And he like points the gun at the back of his head and just like fires once, and because he was so close, literally the back of Steven, like the back of like the top half of his head just exploded and just blew off. And Steven like was walking, like he was like stepping forward and fell like face down onto the ground, and you could see like part of his brain, part of his spinal cord, like everything was open on the top of his head. And so after this point, like so Jacob like walks toward us, and Melissa's standing right next to me, and Jacob like swings the gun from Steven. He like swings the gun toward us, and he points it directly at me. And at that moment, Melissa like grabs me. Like I've never seen her, like I would not expect her to have this much strength, but she grabs me and throws me onto the ground and lays on top of me and presses my body down. And Jacob like is pointing the gun at us, and like stands there for like a second or two, and then just starts walking off and starts running off into another direction. And Melissa is like pinned down on top of me. She's holding my head down, and she's like, "Pretend you're dead. Don't move. Act dead. Like don't move at all." And at this point, I'm not unconscious. Like my eyes are open, I'm breathing, I'm moving and stuff, but like my brain is dead. I don't know what's happening. Like I don't remember anything after this point. But she has me like pinned down to the ground, and she's telling me not to move. She's telling me like I need to pretend like I'm dead in case he comes back so he doesn't shoot at me. And the way she has my head pressed, I'm facing Steven, and all I can see is just like blood like pooling all over the floor around his head, and like it's flowing down into the tiles, and it like I'm like out by this point. Like I don't remember any of this. Melissa was telling me that like my eyes were glazed over, that like it was just like I was just not responding to anything at all. And so after a few seconds, she peers around the kiosk, because we're hiding behind the kiosk, and she peers around and she doesn't see him. So the Zoomies employees, which is the store like right next to where our kiosk was, they like pulled down the mall gate, the like metal chains that they have. They like pulled it down, but they like pulled it up a little bit, and they're like, come here, run, run, run. And so like we get up and we run underneath the gate, and then they shut it back down, and we are like hiding in the back in the storage room and stuff with all the employees. And we sit there for like 10 or 15 minutes while we wait for the police. And I don't have my phone because my phone was in the kiosk, and so Melissa gives me her phone, and she's like, text your mom and tell her you're okay. And I was like in my head it seemed like we had been sitting there for like 10-15 minutes, but in my head it seemed like this had happened like 10-15 seconds ago. Like it didn't seem like it had been that long. And so I was like, why would I text her? Like I'm just gonna freak her out. Like she hasn't even heard that this happened yet, you know? And she's like, no, just text her, like whatever. So I sent her a text message. I'm like, there was a shooting, like I'm at the mall, I'm okay, I'm alive, don't worry, I'm just gonna be stuck here for a little bit. So I text her, and little did I know, my mom was already driving on the way over, because she had turned on the news like the second that it happened, and there was a news story like shots had been fired at Clackamas Town Center. So she literally packed up her stuff and she got into her car and she started driving home. So it's really good that I texted her. But anyways, we were sitting at Zoomies for like 10 or 15 minutes, and the police were doing like a sweep through of the mall, and just in case like there's another shooter, because they didn't know and stuff. And then they came into the back of the room, and they were like, is anybody here a witness? Did anybody see him? Can anybody tell us anything? And so Melissa's like, oh yeah, me and Paulina, you know, and she like tells them briefly what happened. And so they're like, okay, come with us. And they take us to these buses that they have set up like kind of out in the parking lot, where they are like doing witness interviews. But because we were like major witnesses, they kept us like for the very end. Like they were just interviewing people who like heard gunfire or were like in the near vicinity for like the first 10-15 minutes, and they like held us there for like 20-25 minutes until they finished interviewing those people. So we were sitting there for like 20 minutes, and then finally they come in and they interview us. And obviously I don't remember anything. Like my testimony, or my thing that I told the police was that, like, you know, I remember it looking kind of like an M16 or an AK-47, based off like what I know from Call of Duty and stuff, and that he was my height. But literally that's all the details I remember. Like I didn't know anything. But Melissa, when I was listening to her talk about the situation, she was like, yeah, he shot twice, and then he did this, and then he shot like 30 more times, and she like knew all the details and all the things that they needed to know. And like I literally like could not even tell her like what time it was, let alone like all these like ridiculous details. So I was just sitting there like baffled. And at that point, Melissa, like during her questioning, she was like, so he like, why did the shooter, like, what was he doing there? Was he like going for like, was he trying to kill a particular person, or was he trying to like kill like a race or something? Like, why was he there? And the lady, the cop that was interviewing us, she's like, why would you ask that? And she's like, well, he had the gun, he killed the guy in front of us, and then he had the gun pointed at Paulina and I, and he didn't shoot. And that's when the cop said that they found the gun in his backpack, and the chamber had jammed, that 2 bullets entered, I think it's a chamber, 2 bullets entered into like the chamber part of the gun instead of 1, and so it couldn't fire. And she was telling us like how lucky we were, because for those kind of guns, for that to happen, it never happens with with automatic rifles. It was an M16, I think, but she was saying that like the percentage of that to happen is like 0.1%, that never happens that a bullet jams. And not only that, but an experienced shooter can unjam it in like half a second. Like you literally have to like, I don't even know what you do, but she said that it's like super easy to unjam. But Jacob, the shooter, like it wasn't his gun, he's never used it before, so he didn't know what to do. So that's like kind of the moment that I realized, I was like, holy shit, like I almost died. Like I was literally a jam bullet away from dying. So that kind of like brought me back into consciousness, kind of, because at this point I was like grayed out, where like I was functional and I was doing everything, but like my brain just wasn't working. Like I just wasn't like connecting any sort of dots or anything. But as soon as she said that, I was like, oh my God, like I literally just almost died. So I also at this point got my phone back. I don't remember how. I don't know why, like if we went back to the kiosk or if Melissa grabbed it, or I don't know like how that happened or whatever. So at this point I had my phone, and my mom texts me and she's like, Paulina, we can't get into the mall. There's like hundreds of police cars. They won't let us in. So we have to meet you somewhere else. And I was like, okay, that's okay. So the high school that I went to, it was like a couple blocks down from the mall. So I just told her to meet me there. And so Melissa drives me over to the high school, and me and her are like sitting in the parking lot waiting. And, you know, at this point, I'm pretty calm. Like I realized like that I was just in a shooting and that this is gonna be a terrifying thing for me, but I was pretty calm. And like I would probably was even like smiling or laughing, like talking to Melissa, you know, because she was trying to calm me down, because she realized like I'm about to like have an attack, like a panic attack. So she was trying to calm me down and like keep me laughing and all this stuff. So I feel like I was probably like laughing and smiling with her, and we were just talking about like random things. And then when my parents showed up, when my mom and my brother, not my parents, when my mom and my brother showed up to the parking lot, I, uh, it was a moment. It was a moment for me. I like ran over to both of them, and we stood in the parking lot, and we literally stood there for probably like 5 minutes. I've never cried so hard in my life. We were standing there, we were all hugging so tight, and I've never, like, my brother was crying, my mom was crying, I was crying, we were just, like, I was just sobbing, like, I suddenly got, like, so scared, and, like, I just realized, like, how close I was to, like, not ever seeing them again, you know what I mean? And it was a moment. It was a moment for me. So we went home, and my mom got us liquor, and I drank myself to sleep, and all of that. And then the next morning at like 8 a.m, we get a knock at our door, and it's the news, and they're trying to get an interview from me. Not even 24 hours later, they're trying to get me to interview about my story and stuff. So that pissed me off, and for the next 2 years I've been contacted by a lot of people, Good Morning America, the Oregonian, a lot of the local news stations. I've been contacted by a lot of people to do like to tell my story and to kind of get it out there. But I was so pissed at that reporter for coming at 8 a.m. to my house, that I've said no, like, to everything, that like to every year during the anniversary of the shooting, like, people reach out and they're like, oh, do you want to do an interview? And I've said no every single time because of that, because I was just so mad. But basically that's the story. For the first 6 months after that, I was kind of in like a weird like fuzz, where my brain like wasn't really like, I would be able to do like day-to-day things, like go to class and make food and stuff like that, but you know, things just, nothing mattered to me. Like I couldn't see, like, I couldn't have like deep conversations. I couldn't really, like, it's hard to explain, but it was just all really fuzzy and really weird, and like little, like, things just didn't matter to me. I was just in such a weird thing. And I still don't remember to this day what happened after Jacob pointed the gun at me, but I get this reoccurring nightmare that I still get to this day, and it's basically just that whole day from the very beginning, from me going to school and taking my final to me showing up to the mall, and it's just that day recapped in my nightmare, but it always ends in the same place, and it ends where Jacob points the gun at us, and then I wake up, and that's it. And it used to scare me. I used to wake up and get like really scared, but because it's been happening for like almost 3 years now, it's more of like a dream where it just happens and I just wake up and go back to sleep and stuff. But I have started to get to this point where I used to be able to talk about the shooting and like pretty comfortably and not really be fazed by it, and it was more like, it felt like more of me describing a movie than anything else. Like if people ask me like, oh, what happened, or how do you feel, or all this stuff, like I would be able to talk about it no problem, and it didn't bother me, and it just felt like I was just talking about something else, like it didn't happen to me. and that it wasn't like a personal story. But now I get anxious talking about it, and that's why like I wanted to make a video, because I mentioned it a lot, but I just don't want to revisit it all that often. And that's why I went on a hike to tell the story, because I need to like relieve that kind of like anxiety and stress. But yeah, now I get anxious talking about it, and now I get pretty uncomfortable bringing it up. And I haven't had any problems. The only like really like stressful thing that I've been dealing with right now is these anxiety attacks that I get. And the first like 6 months after the shooting, they happened quite a bit, like at least once a week, if not more, where I would suddenly break into this like cold sweat, and I would literally sweat through my clothes. Like I had to wear black and white and like colors that you couldn't like dry fit stuff, because I would literally sweat through everything. Like I just got into these like crazy anxiety attacks where I'd sweat through it. And um all of us like that's like the like I would start sweating, and I would realize that I'm like starting to get like an anxiety attack, and then all of a sudden I would start to cry, like uncontrollable crying, where literally I couldn't stop, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything. And normally I can control my emotions pretty well, and like I can be like, okay, think happy thoughts, do happy things, but nothing was happening in my brain. It wasn't like I was thinking about sad things or scary things, like nothing was in my brain, so I couldn't think about happy things and control it. And so for like the first 6 months, I was able to like kind of predict it and see, and like be able to know like, oh, I'm about to get an anxiety attack, so I would be able to like step out of class and go to the bathroom or go to my car or whatever. And it happened quite a bit. But now I usually only get those attacks like once a month, and something has to instigate it. So like if somebody pops a balloon, or if a car backfires, or things like that, those things kind of set me off. But I'm able to predict it, and so I'm able to like put myself in a comfortable situation and just let it happen. And yeah, let me think. I haven't seen a therapist. That's just kind of a decision I made. I just decided that therapy, I think for me, it would be useful, or I think therapists are useful for people that just need like, I think therapy is for people who need to talk it out, and to like have somebody that can like instigate a conversation so that they can like kind of understand what they're going through. And I'm very fortunate in my life to have family that's there for me, and friends that are there for me, that if I ever do need to release anything or do need to talk about something, I can always go to them and talk to them about it. So I'm very fortunate for that, and I don't think therapy would benefit me in any way to do that. And I'm also a very private person when it comes to personal issues. I can vent about like my school and my job and things like first world problems all day long to people, but when it comes to like personal internal issues, I'm pretty private. I like to deal with things myself, because I realize that ultimately I'm the one that has to make that decision. And people can help me and steer me in the right direction, but ultimately it is my decision, it is my life, so I'm the one that kind of has to deal with it on my own. And I just feel like this is something internal that I have to deal with by myself. And so I just made a decision not to go to see a therapist, because I don't think it'd be beneficial. And right now I don't really think I need it. But I have decided to write a book about my experience, and like where my life has gone from there, and what it's like done to change me, and where it's taken me. And I'm not writing it because I think my life is like super interesting and everyone's gonna care about it. I decided to write it because it helps me. It helps me like let things out. It helps me talk about things. And once you like say something out loud or put it down on paper, you realize either it sounds really stupid, or you can like build off of it or whatever. Because thinking in your head, it doesn't really accomplish all that much, at least not for me. It helps me to like write it down or out loud or on paper. And I found that like writing the book like really like de-stresses me and helps me like let these things go and let these feelings out, especially because I like start to realize things once I put them on paper, like my journey and my path, and where it's taken me and what I've learned. And it's mostly for me. But I think the other influence I've had for writing the book was because after the shooting, I really like I asked the police officer that was interviewing us and a lot of other people like what should I be expecting? Like what does PTSD mean? Like what should I be expecting to happen to me? And she's like whatever happens is natural, it's normal. Whatever you feel, whatever you think, that's normal. And that's literally the worst answer you can give somebody who's looking for an answer is just like this vague like it's everything is normal, what happens is normal, because it's like what do you mean? Like what does that mean? And so I like was googling things and I was looking for books that were like going to help me give me an answer, and I couldn't find anything. So, you know, I want to write this book as well to just kind of share my story and share the struggles that I go through. Just in case somebody has been through like a similar situation and just wants to know like maybe what they're going through is similar to mine, or that they're not alone in fighting the things that I do. And I think it's always nice to know that even like if there's just one other person that's going through the same thing you are, you know, it's helpful, and it is helpful to know that you're not alone in the fight. And that's like one of the biggest things that has influenced me to write this book, is just because I haven't found anything out there that's kind of helped me like explain to me like what I should be anticipating and anything like that. So I guess that's everything. Thank you guys for listening and watching all the way to the end. I know it's an extremely long story. If you guys have any questions or anything, I'm more than happy to answer them. Just reach out to me. And yeah, I mean, I'm still on a life journey. I'm still like finding things and answering things, and I haven't like reached the point in my life where like I know I'm doing the right thing and I've accomplished what I needed to. So, I'm still like growing and making mistakes and, learning and experiencing new things. So if you're like reaching out to me to find answers for things, I don't have them, but it is nice to talk to somebody who is going through similar things. So, just know that I'm more than happy to talk about it. If you guys have any questions for me, just ask me. I might not answer them all the time, especially if I'm streaming and stuff. I might not answer them just because I do have to be in a particular mood to talk about things like this. It is hard for me now, and it does bring anxiety for me, but I will eventually get to them, and I will eventually answer them. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys' support. You guys have been there for me and have just been so positive and so helpful, and I really appreciate it. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and thanks again for listening and watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.